The LCVP, Landing Craft Vehicle Personnel. This is the most numerous of all landing craft. As its name states, it is used to land troops and vehicles, but the vehicles are limited to jeeps and light trailers. With a 36-foot length and a 10.5-foot beam, it can make a speed up to 9 knots. Its sides and ramp are armored to provide splinter protection. It is built of wood or plastic and can carry 36 troops, a 3-ton vehicle, or 4 tons of general cargo. This craft makes up the bulk of those carried on APAs, the attack transports.
and enjoy the ride.
I landed on D-Day with the 1st Infantry Division on Omaha Beach. Our Higgins boat hit a sandbar, and we jumped into the water and immediately went in over our heads. We struggled to make it to shore through the relentless gunfire, but all 12 of my men fought hard, and 6 hours later, we safely reached the hills.
I shipped overseas to Edinburgh, Scotland. We had to be in good shape, so we trained by walking and hiking with all of our gear. We met our first patients, British soldiers who had been wounded in the North Africa campaign. Treating these men prepared us for what bombs, bullets, and shrapnel can do to the human body.
I wrote about what was really going on in North Africa because I thought Americans didn't have an accurate view of the situation. It was not all strawberries and cream.
The men and women who served in World War II began their journey on a train like this one. You too are about to embark on an extraordinary journey. Tap your dog tag at the numbered stations to check in with your World War II individual and hear the next chapter of their story. Explore and save featured items you like to your dog tag collection. After your visit, you can access your World War II story, your dog tag collection, and other related items at home by logging into www.dogtagexperience.org with your email address or the number on the front of your dog tag. Let's get started. Tap your dog tag to the reader in front of you to meet the individual you will be following and start your personal journey.
Typing in there. That's the second box. Typing it up. Type this. Type what I type.
Now that you've met the individual you're going to follow, it's time to start your journey. Head to the Campaigns of Courage Pavilion to continue with the next chapter. Thank you for visiting the National World War II Museum.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at our final stop. Please gather your belongings and exit through the forward door. Thank you for riding the Transcontinental Limited. We look forward to seeing you.
What did you see in a concentration camp?
Lift your foot up.
What the camp looked like, it was just, bodies all over the place. That's the main thing I remember. There were dead bodies all over the place, and sometimes those who were alive looked like they were in the throes of dying, and incoherent. And trying, of course, they didn't speak English. Many of them. Later on, I realized they were talking about Hungary. I think so. I think a lot of them were from Hungary. I'm not an expert on the historical background, or whatever, but later on I realized that many of them apparently had come from Hungary, and they had, as I understood it, not at the time, but a lot of this is, you gather information later on. Many of the people in Gunskirchen and also in Gusen and Ebensee, these were sub-camps or satellite camps of Mauthausen, which was the main camp. And when Mauthausen would get filled up, they would put people on what was labeled a death march toward these sub-camps. So many of these people, as I understood it later, came from Mauthausen on a death march. And what they told us, if they fell down or couldn't continue, they were shot. Many of them were weak and died. So anybody that survived from the death camp march, that survived on the death march got to Gunskirchen, or another one was Gusen, and I think in Ebensee. We came across Gunskirchen, and then later on realized that a lot of the other outfits were all liberating different camps. That was all afterward, not at the time. We thought this is maybe one camp. No. Learned that later that we started coming across as the war was ending. Every outfit was liberating, enough another camp, and one story was more horrific than the next from what they witnessed, and of course later on, what I heard and saw at the Nuremberg war crime trials that went on for about a year, when those pompous Nazis and they were put on trial. I attended there several times because I wanted to be a lawyer and I wanted to see Robert Jackson, our prosecutor in action at the time. So I had the opportunity to go to Nuremberg in a palace that for some reason didn't get bombed. We bombed the heck out of Nuremberg. That palace was still intact when they had the Nuremberg war crimes trials. So I attended that. The testimony and the information that I heard there would curdle your stomach. The things that they did on twins, the experiments and other things that I looked at those guys sitting there, you know, with their things. I was getting PO'd because I think they treat people like that. And, you know, I hadn't even turned 19. Well, I know I was 19 then. I turned 19 May 30th, 45. You get, you know, I was still a very young boy when you look at it. You know, didn't feel young when you're in combat. Maybe you mature pretty fast, but years-wise, I was very young. But I, you know, I had to absorb an awful lot in a relatively short period of time, both in combat and after the war ended, for what I witnessed and saw at the Nuremberg war crimes trials.
What was your worst fear while in a concentration camp?
I guess the most shocking thing as an 18-year-old soldier is to see 3 people taking the guts and entrails of a dead horse and pulling it out and biting and seeing the blood that is squirting and watching them chew. That's a scene that just hit me. It was so hard to witness that, to understand it and see it. It's kind of getting ingrained in my head when I talk about it and I see that scene. In fact, you have to really see what starvation can do with people, to be able to eat the guts of a dead horse. When I saw them chewing the blood squirting, I can never forget that scene. It's something that's, you know, it's so shocking to me. But I realized, you know, afterwards and thinking how lucky they were that they could even be strong enough to do something like that. Because so many of them were so weak, were practically falling down from weakness and stuff. And you know, one of the regrets that I always had was, God, I could only gotten there a couple of days sooner. Because many of them died almost that day from malnutrition, you know, wasting away. And I thought maybe a few days before, but it was out of my control. But if we'd only known, knew that they were going to move faster, and got to conscription a few days before, we could have saved some more bodies, because many of them died even when we were there. I wasn't a doctor or a medic, but they were taking people away that just sort of like from weakness passed out on stretchers. They had a lot of typhus. A lot of typhus I heard them talking about. Many of them had typhus. And dysentery was all over it. That's part of the smell, the blood and the dysentery and the vomit and everything. But I just wish we could have got there a few days sooner. Maybe we could have saved some more. Hopefully.
that remains is the final order to go from the only man who can give it, American General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force. Yes. It's June 4th, 1944. At the 4 a.m. briefing, Eisenhower and his staff listened closely as Group Captain J.M. Stagg, the command's weather advisor, delivered his report.
It appears that the weather will be overcast and stormy.
The news is discouraging for the next day, the planned day of the launch, June 5th. Eisenhower asks his subordinates for their view.
Do you see any reason for not going Tuesday?
British General Bernard Montgomery, commander of the ground forces, wants to go.
I think we should go.
Air Marshal Arthur Tedder, the Deputy Supreme Commander, favors postponement.
We should wait.
So does the ever-cautious Air Vice Marshal Trafford Lee Mallory, the Tactical Air Commander.
I'd postpone.
Admiral Bertram Ramsey, the Naval Commander-in-Chief, is willing to go, but worries that poor visibility and high seas might put the landing forces at risk.
I have some serious concerns about the weather.
Eisenhower knows that bad weather could cripple Allied air control. The risks seem too great. He asks if anyone disagrees. No one objects. Eisenhower gives the order to postpone D-Day for at least 1 day.
Let's put everything on hold and hope conditions improve.
As word of the delay goes out to the troops, Eisenhower weighs the gravity of the situation confronting him. Although the weather holds the key, there are other equally crucial factors to consider. One is the sheer momentum of the force waiting to be unleashed against Hitler's Atlantic Wall. He knows that any further postponement might have a devastating effect on morale. The next favorable tide in Normandy won't occur until June 19th, 2 weeks away. The Allies have gone to great lengths to conceal their plans from the Germans, who believe that the invasion will take place at Calais. The longer he waits, the greater the possibility that the enemy will uncover the true plan. Yet of all the burdens Eisenhower bears, perhaps the heaviest is the absence of any contingency plan. Once begun, Operation Overlord must succeed. There is an alternative.
Allied goals: storm the Normandy beaches, penetrate Hitler's Atlantic Wall, and secure Hinton objectives. Throughout the night, Allied planes pound the German gun defenses. But many bombs are off target. 20,000 paratroopers from the British 6th and the American 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions drop behind German lines. The plan: Americans will capture the village of St. Mary Glees, seize the exits from Utah Beach, and protect the invasion's western flank by securing the bridges over the Douve River. However, the drop is more scattered than planned, leaving units isolated and uncoordinated. Nevertheless, by the end of June 6th, the American Airborne has control of St. Mary Glees and the Utah exits, but they have not taken the Douve bridges. The British Airborne was more successful. It shielded the invasion's eastern flank from German counterattack. Dawn. The naval barrage begins. It's supposed to destroy the German gun emplacements, but it is not effective. 06:30 hours, Utah Beach. The American 4th Infantry Division is to take the beach and link up with the American Airborne. Fortunately, strong winds and waves push the landing boats off course into an area less defended. The 4th Division floods Utah with 20,000 troops and attains nearly all of its objectives by nightfall. 06:30 hours, Omaha Beach. The 116th Infantry Regiment of the 29th Division and the 16th Infantry Regiment of the 1st Division hit the beach. The plan: the Americans are to take the beach and 4 villages. But here at Omaha Beach and at Point du Hoc, German defenses are strongest. Topography presents major problems. Omaha's narrow, open beach faces a 100-foot bluff, where the Germans have the high ground. The Allies believe that there are heavy German guns on top of Point du Hoc. The 2nd Ranger Battalion scales the cliffs, but the guns aren't there. The Rangers locate them inland and destroy them. Meanwhile, at Omaha, plans descend into chaos. Rough seas swamp some boats and push others far off course. Heavy smoke hampers visibility. The Germans unleash monstrous firepower. The beach becomes jammed with equipment, vehicles, and over 2,000 dead, dying, and wounded soldiers. By day's end, a small number of units make it to high ground, but many of the objectives are not reached. 07:25 hours, the British 3rd Division lands at Sword Beach. Its main objective: take Caen. The British Airborne helps to keep German firepower at bay, and the Battle for Sword is a success. But by the end of D-Day, the British are still over 3 miles from Caen. 07:35 hours, Gold Beach. The British 50th Infantry Division lands. Its goal is to take the town of Bayeux and cross Highway N13. The landing goes almost as planned. By nightfall, the 50th has pushed over 6 miles inland, but it has not taken Bayeux or crossed N13. 07:35 hours. Juno Beach belongs to the Canadian 3rd Division. Its objective is to link with the British 50th at the village of Cruilly, then reach Highway N13 and secure the Caen-Bayeux Railway 9 miles inland. The Canadians encounter high tides, strong winds, and mines. Despite heavy losses in the water, they persevere. The Canadians take Juno and join the British at Cruilly. However, they are unable to reach N13 or secure the Caen-Bayeux Railway. The end of D-Day. 9 divisions are ashore. The beaches are secure. The Allies have not made the gains inland they hoped for, but they have a solid foothold in Normandy. Hitler's Atlantic Wall has been breached.
us were bad.
We're mothers. We don't want our boys to go to war.
We demand that Congress refrain from war, even if England is on the verge of defeat.
You want peace, but you want peace. You want to go on leading, you don't want to run, but you don't want to fight for it. I'll tell you something.
Your boys are not going to be sent into any foreign war.
We must give President Roosevelt power to set in motion an industrial blitzkrieg that will make it possible for England to blast Hitlerism from the face of the earth.
Despite the propaganda and confusion of recent months, it is now obvious that England is losing the war.
When you're confident enough, use your faith and your belief.
I saw men all blown up, men with no legs on, men burned to death, men drowned in oil.
2 waves of Japanese planes attack American military installations at Pearl Harbor. In just 90 minutes, they sink or damage 21 ships and destroy 347 planes. Nearly 2,400 Americans are dead. Almost 1,200 wounded. The United States Pacific Fleet is decimated.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Days later, Germany and Italy joined Japan by declaring war on the United States. The president's speech unites a previously divided nation, but the news only gets worse as Japan begins attack after attack in an attempt to dominate the Pacific.
And just now comes the word that a second air attack has been reported in Manila.
We have just received word here that Guam is in trouble.
The Japanese overrun American and Allied territories across the Pacific. Americans are terrified. Fear spreads. Japanese spies are presumed to be everywhere. New attacks imminent.
The Army tonight unidentified planes were over at Los Angeles, and the planes had been sent aloft to determine if they were enemy aircraft.
Just 8 weeks after the attack at Pearl Harbor, a panicked nation rounds up its Japanese-American citizens and ships them off to internment camps. Japan continues its assaults in the Pacific as Americans tune in to follow the fate of their troops. The news from the Philippines isn't good.
They're not new yet. We are waiting for God only knows what.
A month later, the entire Philippines is lost.
Damage terrific. Too much for guys to take. The white flag is up.
The Japanese forced the surviving Americans and Filipinos on a brutal 5-day, 65-mile march. Thousands of POWs perish at the hands of their cruel captors during what becomes known as the Bataan Death March. On the other side of the world, things look equally dire. Germany has conquered most of Europe. Their U-boats dominate the Atlantic, sinking one helpless American merchant marine ship after another. The confident Germans even dare to stalk us in the Gulf of Mexico, hunt us off the coast of North Carolina, and chase us amidst the shadows of New York City. Until, by mid-1942, they have destroyed 500 of our ships. The situation is desperate. The United States is in danger of losing the war. A war America is ill-prepared to fight. What Americans do have, however, is resolve.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to an absolute
the same principles we are fighting for overseas. But are we living up to these ideals at home? Americans of German and Italian descent are treated as loyal citizens, even though Germany and Italy have declared war on us. These men enlist in huge numbers, fulfilling their duty as American citizens to protect the values of the country their ancestors adopted as their own. And their heroism is rightly celebrated at home. Latino Americans also enlist, serve, and die in integrated units. Men like Medal of Honor recipient Silvestre Herrera, Richard Candelaria, and Elwood Tesaro are honored for their bravery. But their sacrifice matters little on the streets of Los Angeles. Place them in internment camps.
As to why I'm an American. So well, you got Japanese blood in you. We were never charged with any crime. We were allowed one to sit there. That's all the land, we crop all the lands that we didn't. And there were fire bombings, cabins, farms. The dream was broken.
subatomic particles. In 1939, German scientists proposed a startling theory. Shooting neutrons into the nucleus of a uranium atom could generate a chain reaction, producing enough energy to create a weapon never before imagined. In Germany, the leader in scientific innovation, the world's best physicists, now under Nazi rule, get to work unlocking the power of the atom. If the Nazis are first to transform the theory of nuclear fission into an actual explosion, Hitler will be invincible. Lobbying for secrecy and support, physicist Leo Szilard urges Albert Einstein to write a letter to President Roosevelt, warning them of the dire. Scientists calculate that a weapon could be made small enough to fit onto an airplane. But under constant aerial attacks by Germany, they're unable to test their theory. Instead, they share their research with the United States, investigating America's industrial capacities for building a bomb. When Germany declares war on America 2 months later, Roosevelt takes the next step, authorizing the military to secretly attempt construction of a bomb. The president selects Colonel Leslie R. Groves to head up the Manhattan Engineer District. 125,000 workers at more than 30 sites across the nation all contribute to the monumental production effort. The utmost secrecy is vital, with workers forbidden.
merchant marine, brave, driven, and too often forgotten. Long before the United States enters the war, they are already serving on the front line, crisscrossing enemy-infested seas to deliver critical supplies to allies around the world. In the months after the U.S. officially joins the fight, as the arsenal of democracy begins to churn out millions of tons of equipment and materiel, the seamen step up their efforts to deliver goods to American and Allied troops. Across a cold Atlantic to Great Britain, through an icy Arctic Sea to the Soviet Union, into the Mediterranean. 3 weeks later, in May 1942, the strategy